am I? I don't see the YouTube signal up yet, so. Oh, I guess I am live. What's up, everybody? I'm just refreshing the YouTube screen so I can just see, but there I am. Sweet. All right. How's everyone doing tonight? I feel so excited to be able to be in my home, chilling, doing some live looping stuff with y'all tonight. So I'm going to start out by performing a little bit, and then I am going to break down what I did and show you some gadgets and talk about fun Apogee stuff and all the things, and then answer some questions the last 45 minutes, not 45 minutes, at 45 minutes for the last 15 minutes. So for those of you that are just joining, I'm Laura Escudé. I'm an artist, I'm a creative entrepreneur, and I'm a live show designer. There were a lot of questions actually about what a live show designer does, and I'll answer those questions at the end. So if you guys have any burning questions that pop up, I'm going to be checking out the chat from time to time. So maybe I could get the Apogee folks to pin something to the top if it's super important. But otherwise, yeah, I'm just going to perform some music and show you some stuff about live looping. Thank you. I'm going to do one more. This one is called Transmute. Thank you guys for tuning in. Not checking the comments right now, so hopefully you guys are enjoying it. This is from my last EP called Transmute as well. All right. I'm just going to check the chat, see what's going on over there. Yeah, it's kind of, it's interesting. I'm like imagining that you're clapping right now out there in cyberspace, wherever you are in the world. This is super fun. People are asking about stuff, right? You're asking about what gear I'm using. So I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna show some of my session as well, and yeah, just try to see what's going on in the chat. Yes. Stream is fine. Okay, good. It's like always like, you're streaming and you're wondering, is this actually working? Hopefully it is, because I'm not checking it while I'm performing. So I guess the first question about the foot pedal, because you guys can't see that. That's the only thing that you guys really can't see. Well, there's a lot that you can't see, but I tried to change the camera angle so that you could see most stuff. I'm using this POC foot controller. It's a wireless foot controller. It's QWERTY mappable, basically, instead of MIDI. So just think of it as like a QWERTY keyboard, but for your foot, and it's Bluetooth, and so I could just take it with me anywhere on stage. Right now, I don't have very far to go because I'm just in my studio, but when I perform outside in the world, I like to take this around with me and just go to different parts of the space if possible. My preference is all wireless everything. So I like to have like wireless in-ears and microphone and all the things, so I could just travel anywhere on stage. But yeah, this is the POC, and I'm going to show you guys how I have this mapped to the looper in Ableton Live. So if we go to this scene right here, if I go to, I said that did not clear that. Okay, so let me clear that now. So basically, let's see, let me just go back up to like, so if I go up here, so basically, this foot controller, when I press the first button on the bottom here, it engages the first looper. And then if I press it twice, it stops it. And then if I press this function button and the pedal again, it clears it. And so I basically have that for 4 different loopers. So it's a little hard to show this and play at the same time, but I'm gonna try. Let me get my overhead. Move this out of the way. Don't need you, mouse. Keyboard. basically, with the foot controller, I've got each one of these bottom ones mapped to record, and I can stop by pressing it twice, and then I can clear it by pressing that and that. And then the fourth one is for my special violin, which is, yes, it's a MIDI violin. I saw out of the corner of my eye something in the chat about the MIDI violin. Yes, it is kind of a MIDI violin in a roundabout way. I'm going to explain that to you. This first row up here changes the different sounds of the violin, the effects. So this one is my clean. This one here is my cello. So that's like the low. My fave, because I secretly wish that I played the cello. Except for I'm glad that I don't, because the thing is really big and taking on a plane is a pain. But I can fake it. I can pretend like I'm playing the cello with this amazing plugin called Pitch Proof. It's free. Heard it from me, and yeah, you should definitely grab that. Got this delay here. And then the fourth one is for my special violin. So I want to talk about my special violin real quick, because I am using the Apogee element with that. And you can see it down here. I have a whole different system in the back. Got the element, the clear violin plugged in. And what I'm doing is I'm sending the audio from that violin through the element by Apogee, and which is an awesome interface, and a great company, of course, since they have me on here. Thank you guys. And through this computer over here, through the interface, I'm using a program called Midi Merlin, created by my friend Randy George, who is a genius. And I don't say that take that very lightly as a thing to say. I mean, he truly is. Shout out Randy. I always give him a shout out in my presentations because he's a genius, mad genius. So he created this program called Midi Merlin that converts audio to MIDI in real time. So and then I've got this MIDI fighter right here, which changes the sounds on that. So I can go to a different preset. Got some wild sounds going on. So I'm actually playing, get this, I'm actually playing this synthesizer called the Continue Mini with my violin. It's crazy. So this synthesizer is the most portable MPE synthesizer that I think you can find. And I have the ability to control it with my violin through the software and another piece of software on my a computer. But the thing that is incredible is that it actually takes all the little nuances of the violin and it makes it come to life, versus other audio to MIDI softwares in the past just didn't really track that well, and vibrato is really difficult to track as well. So anyway, I could go on and on about that, but I want to talk more about my session over here. So that's the foot controller. And I'm just going to go back to the chat to just see how am I triggering the scene without using hands. Oh man, I'm going to have to like go through all of these questions. There's a lot. The pedal board is POK. How do I trigger a new scene? So I've got my POK controller also to be able to control scenes. So I can trigger that in live as well. So if I go to here in live, Ableton Live, there are these little buttons here for up and down and play. And I've mapped them to, because I don't know if you can actually see my mouse. Actually, I don't think you can for some reason, but over on the right, on the master track above the looper, there are 4 circles kind of in the middle, and that's where you map that. But that only pops up, you don't see it until you get into keyboard mapping mode, which is also found up here. So that's how I map that. I am using ohm modes on my ohm. Wow, shout out someone that knows about ohm modes. You're a real one. Yeah, you must go way back. I am using this ohm, which is still my baby after all these years, and I'm using this to navigate around the session and trigger different things. So that's that. A lot of reverb on that. I like me some reverb. So that's that. I also want to talk a bit about the types of looping that I was doing. So there's a couple different types of looping that one can do. And does anyone follow like Mark Riboulet, or however you say his name? He's amazing. And he does some live looping stuff with his vocals and the crowd, and so he just does sort of improv looping kind of stuff. And so that's what I was doing a lot of the time, was some improv looping stuff, especially like in the beginning. I was doing improv looping where I was just bringing in loops and just hoping for the best, doing improv stuff. I do have a click in my in-ears, so if I go to my live session, like all the way down here, I've got a click that's happening. It's just a MIDI click, and that is being sent to my in-ears. So what I'm listening to and what you guys are listening to is different. So you're not hearing the click because that wouldn't be enjoyable for you, wouldn't be as enjoyable of an experience. But I'm listening to a click to keep myself in time, which is very important. Unless you just want to throw caution to the wind, you're just like, man, screw it, I want to do something super avant-garde. You know, you could do that as well, but having a click definitely helps me keep my loops tighter. I also have a little secret. I sometimes record little messages to myself. So I have these little messages that I tell myself in the middle of the songs, like 1, 2, 3, 4, something's coming in, or like a melody idea if I'd looped something before and I liked it. So these are just little things that I hear in my in-ears only that remind me to do stuff. And this is used quite a bit in the real world out there and big, huge tours. There's a lot of cues and counts and all that kind of stuff happening. So I've got a little bit of that going on, which helps me out. And yeah, like when I'll be jamming in my studio, sometimes I'll do some looping stuff, and then if I like the way that it sounds, then I'll just kind of pull it into my like in-ear mix over here. I realize you can't, oh yeah, you can see when I click on something. So yeah, so that's what that is. And I kind of switch back and forth between, so you may have noticed in the beginning, the first couple of songs were just very like improvisational. And then when I did the Transmute song, that was pre-programmed. So that has like a full arrangement. And basically in the arrangement, it's got some automation happening. So if I go to my looper and then go to the looper state, you can see here that at bar 23, it starts recording, and then at bar 27, it starts overdubbing, and then bar 31, it just plays back. So in this song, I've got, it's all pre-planned out so that I don't have to think about pressing any buttons or really, just because I've got a lot of instrument switching going on. So those are like the two major ways that you can loop in live. There is another way called using something called CliffX, which is pretty advanced. And I know there's different levels here, so I could get into that another time, or if you guys come to some of my other master classes, I could talk about that. But basically, just so you know that there's a couple different ways to do it. There's improvisational looping, and then there is structured looping. And I think one of the original questions that was submitted was, how do you know when to do which? And so I definitely pre-plan out my set to a certain extent. So I know, like, in certain songs, I leave moments for myself to do improvisational things. And then in between songs, a lot of times I do improvisational things as well. But in certain songs like Transmute, I just know that it's always going to be the same way. In another song of mine, Fervor, I've got kind of a combination of pre-programmed stuff, so loops firing off for me, and then improvisational stuff at certain moments because I want to just have the freedom to decide in the moment. So I just kind of go with how I feel and try to just do the best I can to make it sound good for the audience, and also just have fun with it and challenge myself. So I love to like just continue doing more and try to challenge myself more and more. So, okay, yes, Mark. Is everyone else hearing me okay? Is it, I haven't had any other comments about my vocal mic being too low, so yeah. MIDI fighter, yes. If you guys could comment in the chat if you can hear my voice properly, because Kazi says that he or she can't. Okay, so I'm gonna go to some of the original questions that were submitted. So yeah, Jeffrey's question was, how do you maintain structure while still leaving room for improv? And I answered that one. Charles wanted to know about, can you loop external MIDI synths using Ableton? So yeah, I showed that in the middle of my session when I was doing like the piano stuff and like the bass stuff, the sub bass stuff. So I was using the push. I was using the push, and for instance, I've got different sounds. Let me pull this down so you guys can see it. It's got different sounds going on with the instruments, and then I can loop them by just pressing this button. And so, for example, let me clear out what I had done with the piano here, and then so that's a quick and easy way that you can do looping. I also wanted to show you guys, actually, I'm using some of the new Apogee plugins in my session, which are amazing, incredible. For some reason, there's some sort of glitch with the software that I'm using. So when I go to show you the plugin here, I'm opening it and I can see it on my screen, but you guys can't see it on your screen, which is really odd. But I'm using the Mod EQ6 here for my violin, and I'm using it to EQ my violin on the front end. So basically, I've just rolled off some of the very low end, the rumble area, and then taken down some like 200 and like 1K, and kind of dipped down the very high end stuff so that it kind of sounds a little nicer and smoother, and kind of cuts out some of those like frequencies that might not be as pleasing to the ear, because the violin can be a little screechy and scratchy at times. So I'm using that one. So definitely check out the Mod EQ. And then on the vocal track as well, I'm using an Apogee effects rack. I'm using a vocal chain that they actually, it's my vocal is coming through it right now. So I've got a compressor, just compressing slightly. I've got another EQ, and then I've got an Opto 3A compressor limiter. So with the combination of all these, it makes my voice sound very, very crispy and very present, which is what I like. So definitely check those out if you guys are in the market for some dope mixing plugins. All right, let me go back to my questions. So yeah, I answered Charles's questions about looping external MIDI synths. Talked about my workflow. How much prep work do I do? So that is a good question. This particular set that I've been doing is kind of an amalgamation of many years of kind of just putting things together. So it depends. Like if I've got a big show, then I definitely try to rehearse as much as possible. I like to take everything out of my studio, even though I like my studio, but I try to take it out of the studio and put it in my living room, which sounds kind of funny, but I want to just take all the variables of my studio out so that I know that I have every single cable. I've got like every single thing plugged in the way that it needs to be plugged in. Because in the studio, there's like all kinds of other stuff plugged in as well, because I know some of you were looking at my synths back there. So there's all kinds of stuff plugged in, but getting it out of the studio just is like, lets me focus on like, okay, this is my live set. This is what it is. So I like to set everything up and just make sure I don't forget any adapters or anything like that. All right. A lot of people just like interested in looping in general. I hope that I showed you some of the different ways that you can loop. Let's see. Okay, a drummer, Keith. Keith from the UK. Gosh, it must be pretty late there, Keith, if you're watching. Maybe you'll watch the replay. Yeah, foot switches and foot controllers. I also have something called the Keith McMillan Soft Step foot controller, and so I use that quite a bit for looping and different effects and things like that. Let's see. Sean was wondering about incorporating the looper plugin. Yeah, so I'm using the looper plugin. It does have its limitations. So for instance, when you change the pitch of Ableton Live, if you change the tempo of Ableton Live, it also changes the pitch, which could result in some kind of crazy things happening. So you just have to be aware of that with the looper. But with other methods, like if you're just recording into a clip, then it doesn't do that. But the strengths of the looper in particular, if I go to my violin track and go to the loopers, it's just this one button thing here, the multi-purpose button. So again, you can't see my mouse, but this big play button here. So basically this one button does multiple things, which is really, really handy, because otherwise you have to like map 3 different things to this. So that's one advantage of the looper, but then again, the disadvantage for me at least is if I want to change the tempo of the track, it's going to change the pitch. Let's see what else. Some people are saying that my voice is quiet, and some people are saying I'm good, so hopefully you can hear me. Some people can. Sean says the level is good. Thanks, Sean. What's up, Sean? Yes, Sean from Ireland was wondering about running backing tracks and live looping from the same laptop at the same time. Yeah, actually, I can turn my mic up a little bit if you guys are saying it's a little too low. Maybe that's better. Yes, Sean, you can run backing tracks and live loop from the same laptop, because I just did it. I just showed that. So there's a lot that you can do with that. And let's see, Estuardo from Miami. Where do I start a live set for an artist that wants to playing reggaeton? Awesome. So this is a really good, this is a really good question. So some people are like, should I use arrangement view, right? So arrangement view is this timeline view here, right? And so a lot of people are used to this view, especially if you're coming from software like Pro Tools or Logic or Cubase or any of the other things. And so I feel like there's pluses and minuses to each again. With the arrangement view, I definitely would use it if you're just going to play full songs and you're never going to deviate from that. You're not going to loop anything. You're not going to get experimental. You just play the song down. I would definitely recommend the arrangement view. But if you're going to do more improvisational stuff, definitely want to use the session view for that, because looping in the arrangement view is, you can do it, but it's trickier. And the session view just allows you to kind of jump around different clips and things. So I personally prefer the session view for my own show, but when I'm designing shows for other artists, a lot of them tend to need the arrangement view. So I'll just make that call at the beginning of working with them and decide like, okay, are you ever going to want to do this? Are you going to ever want to do like looping or improv stuff? And if the answer is no, then we'll just keep it to arrangement view. So hopefully that answers that. Yeah, and he also was asking about if one day having other musicians for the live set, can you mute unneeded instrumental tracks? So absolutely. That is the essence of what playback engineering and playback artistry is when you're working with a band or you're creating something, a show for a band. You want to be able to bring in different elements in and out because, for instance, if the bass player gets sick and can't show up, you need to be able to bring the bass back into the track, or same thing with the drums, all that kind of stuff. So having the flexibility to just mute and unmute things is really, really key, especially when you're playing with a band. Paul from Brooklyn, any tips on creating mellow live loops for a yoga class? Yeah, that's fun actually, because you don't have to have like any crazy structure. You can just kind of let it flow. You don't necessarily need to have like a click or anything. You could just kind of do a very ambient set. So I would just say like, you don't have to confine it to a certain number of bars. So for instance, in my session here, I've got a lot of my my loops set to 4 or 8 bars. And so for a yoga set, I probably would just do like X bars, which is variable length. So just punch in and punch out whenever you feel like it, and just let it flow. So that's a great question. I want to go to your yoga class. Tell me if you're streaming any yoga and you're looping. Okay, so let me go back to the chat. Ruby, what's up, Ruby? Ruby's wondering about putting my whole set in one session. Yes, I do put the whole set in one session just because opening up different sessions is just kind of nerve-wracking, to say the least. So I definitely just have one session set up. Okay. And Tori, how would you mute and unmute a looping clip? So you could do that with a foot controller without taking your hands off the violins. Definitely foot controller. Cool. Okay. Well, my time is up here. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I am doing a lot of these master classes, free master classes over the next couple of weeks. So if you guys go follow me on my Instagram, you can get all the information there. As well, I have my Transmute live performance design program. So if you guys are interested in learning about what I do and how to apply it to your live performance stuff, definitely get in touch on Instagram, shoot me a DM, and I can send you some info about the course. It's starting in May, and it's called the Transmute Accelerator. It's super fun. It's all online. We've done it 2 times before, and we've had people from all over the world join in and have like amazing kick-ass live performances come out of it. So cool. Well, thank you guys so much. Thanks to Apogee for having me tonight. And be well and stay creative. Everyone's got this amazing time in their studio, so definitely stay creative, and I'll see you out there in the world of the internet hopefully soon. Take care, guys. Bye.